Hello there everybody, how's it going? Welcome back for the last time in 2018 to Good Game Have Fun. This is me as always, THP, talking to you guys once again, and welcome to a very free-form, unscripted, almost vlog style Game of the Year 2018 video. This will be the final video that I will be posting in 2018. So ideally, this video should be coming out on December the 31st, just so that we can officially just bookend, just end the year of 2018 with a list. A pretty big list, actually, of my 10 most favorite games of 2018. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I mean any disrespect to any other game that is not on the list. In fact, just like any other year, I have here on my phone a list of honorable mentions. It's a very, very long list of all of the games that I played this year, whether it be a new game or a remake or a re-release or a port or anything. As long as it comes out in 2018 and I played it and I had a lot of fun with it, it'll be here on this list. And that, to a certain extent, includes maybe one or two games here on the top 10 list. But I'll make my argument for why they should be included later on. But basically, yeah, there was a whole bunch of games. I actually, this year, more than any year, it was the most difficult time I have ever had to, deciding what games are going to make the list, first of all. And then second of all, arranging them, ranking them from like best to worst, although that is kind of meaningless because all 10 of these games on the list are absolutely amazing and you should all get them. Definitely play them, check them out at least once. While the honorable mentions are games that maybe don't fit that caliber, or at least games that I've heard about that I thought were really good, or games that I didn't really have enough time to play around with. And so, but I do acknowledge them as really good games. So, I put them here on the honorable mentions list anyway. So, without further ado, I say we go ahead and we just begin. I can definitely see myself talking a lot for like the main top 10. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to roll out the name of all of the games in the honorable mentions. Usually these videos end up being super long because I talk about every single game. But right now, I'm just going to call them out by name, and if you guys are interested and you want me to expand more on it, you can leave me a comment, or you can just search it up on Google yourself. So here we go. The honorable mentions for all of the games that I played in 2018 are as following. So the first one that might shock a lot of people is The World Ends With You Final Remix. So this one I will talk about a little bit. So, The World Ends With You, for all the people that don't follow my channel or don't know me, it is my #1 most favorite game of all time ever. I adore The World Ends With You, but this Nintendo Switch re-release in particular, I don't think was the best. I feel like the controls, the Joy-Cons are a little wonky. They don't really work as well as you would expect. In terms of new content, there really isn't any. There's barely any. There's like that A New Day brand new chapter that just sort of teases more story, kind of teases a sequel, but it barely brings anything to the table to really have it deserve the status of like, oh, it's a brand new game, Most of the content is exactly the same, and you can tell very early on that this is just a port of the iPhone version. So if you've played the iPhone version, you've played the Switch version, and that version of the game has been out since like 2012, I think. So, yeah, I don't feel like it really warranted to be on the top 10 list because I didn't really think it was as good as I thought it would be, and it's not really different enough for me to be like, yeah, it's a totally different brand new release. So, it's just honorable mention for now. The next one is Peach Ball Senran Kagura, which is the brand new pinball game that came out in Japan. This is not a Western release, this is a Japanese release in 2018. And I thought it was decent. A lot of stuff really stopped it from being a great game, unfortunately. It really does the bare minimum, but what is there is pretty fun, admittedly. The next game in that same vein is Eventicle. For the very first time in the history of all of my top 10 lists, this is the very first hentai game that is on my honorable mentions for Game of the Year, because this game does so many things that are so interesting. I love the characters and the story behind it. It is very real, very mature, and very adult. Like, literally, like, the first sex scene that you see in that game is a rape scene, which is awful. But, it really sets the tone for, like, who the villains are, establishing what the goal is, who you're fighting against. It's a very simple RPG, but, you know, the fact that it has a Samurai Kagura art style, the fact that the game is very easy to get into, that the characters are enjoyable, that the protagonist itself is fairly enjoyable too. It just does a lot of things that I think are not necessary for a hentai game, but it does it anyway. And so I think Evenical is a very, very unique case of a quality hentai game that is more than just the sex, or something that adds more meaning to the sex. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting world. It's an interesting game to have an interesting discussion about. So I think it deserves a, you know, a spot here on the list. Evenical, the very first hentai game ever that I put on my list. So congratulations. The next game on the honorable mentions is Celeste. We have, again, Celeste is one of those games that I heard so many great things about. I never played it, but I've seen some gameplay videos on it, and it legitimately does look really good. So I'm just gonna put it here just to kind of show my respects, you know, to show that I acknowledge this as a good game, despite the fact that I never really gave myself to really play it. The same thing goes for The Messenger and Dead Cells. I have this on the list too. I have Galgun 2. That one also really good. Soul Calibur 6. Again, I got to play like an hour of it, but not enough to really like consider it for the list. So, you know, some of these games could easily be on the top 10, but, you know, I literally did not have the time to play them enough for me to be like, yeah, this deserves to be in there. So, yeah, Messenger, Dead Cell, Soul Calibur 6, Octopath Traveler, No Man's Sky updates. Again, every single time I talk about No Man's Sky is like further expanded in a much better game every single time. So yeah, the Abyss update and the Visions update for No Man's Sky, I'm highlighting specifically for 2018 for an honorable mention for No Man's Sky. This game that made an enormous comeback. You know, it used to be like the most hated game ever to now like a lot of people playing it now, so that's great. Excuse me. Ni no Kuni 2 is on the list here as well. Samurai Kagura Burst Renewal. I did play a good chunk of, you know, the Japanese version. I am very well acquainted with it. Even though there's a lot of shit surrounding it with censorship and all that stuff, I do still appreciate that it is a full-on PS4 level remake of the very first game. And, you know, I appreciate it. I still think that's a really cool thing to show how far they have come from back then to now, you know, from 3DS to PS4. So that it's still good on those grounds. Lumines Remastered, Blade Strangers, Mario Tennis Aces, Koihime Enbu Ryo Rai, which is the expanded version of Koihime Enbu for PS4, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for Nintendo Switch, Monster Hunter World, definitely, that's a big one, you guys should definitely check out that one, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on Switch, the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection on Switch, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, a very awesome, like, classic comeback to, like, you know, older Castlevania titles in the wake of, you know, this newer Bloodstained game that's going to come out later on. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, Fire Emblem Warriors, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, all of these, like, again, these are all, like, re-releases and stuff, but they found a second chance, a second win on Switch, and I feel like that should be appreciated. Owl Boy was a really big one. Attack on Titan 2, Yume Nikki Dream Diary, the Secret of Mana remake that everybody hated, that I feel like I'm the only one that actually likes it. I'm that kind of guy that loves, you know, which one was it? Final Fantasy something? There was a game out there that was called, like, Adventures of Mana or something like that. Yeah, Adventures of Mana. One of my favorite games. I love that game to death. And Secret of Mana was made kind of in that same vein, and so that's why I liked it too. A lot of people hated it. I thought it was okay. So I put it on my list. And then the last one is Under Night in Birth X Latest. And one game that I forgot to put in here, I think, was A Hat in Time. A lot of people like that game. I never played it, but again, I acknowledge that as a good game that deserves to be on this list. Okay, so after, well, like 8.5 minutes, all right, we got through the honorable mentions very quickly. I know that I missed out on a fuck ton of other games, and I apologize for that. I'm just talking about the games, you know, that I'm familiar with and I'm more acquainted with. And even then, like, there's a whole world, you know, you're talking indie games, VR games, hentai games, you know, console games, phone games, like, there's so much shit in here, like, I could go on forever just on the honorable mention, so I gotta cut it off at some point, you know. I know that most games have something good going for them, but, you know, not all of them, you know, can really, like, kind of be special, you know. All of the games here are, like, decent, you know, slightly more up there than the majority, so it's tough. It's really difficult having to make a decision, you know, which ones you're leaving out and which ones you're not, you know. Even now, looking at this list, I'm already thinking about a billion other games that I didn't mention, so I apologize in advance if your favorite game is not in here. But anyway, now we're gonna go to the big ones, the big boys, the big kahunas, the top 10. To me, personally, this is not officially for the entire world top 10 best games. This is just, in my personal opinion, my personal, for me, top 10 most favorite games of all time. This is based on my level of enjoyment, the level of fun that I had with these games. I tried not to, like, model myself or put barriers on myself based on, like, controversies or technical issues or something like that. Just, if I had a lot of fun with it and I enjoyed it a lot, and is worthy of being, like, top 10 level, then I'm gonna put it in here. There are going to be some technicalities here that I'm going to be added in here, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Just maybe like 2 games here that, you know, by some people's standards should not be on the list, but for me it is, because I feel like they're just that good. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I want to kick off number 10 on the list with basically the game that is winning all of the awards other than God of War. It is Red Dead Redemption 2. So I played that game at launch. I actually live streamed myself a couple of times playing through Red Dead Redemption, and I have continued to play more of it offline, while not streaming. And I like it a lot. I mean, it's Rockstar doing what Rockstar does, you know, open world, and now with PS4 technology and thanks to, you know, their success with Grand Theft Auto 5 and whatnot, they have really stepped it up in terms of making everything really cinematic, really cool, making, this cowboy game feel like some sort of HBO show, you know, like Game of Thrones and all that kind of stuff. It kind of has that HBO TV show quality to it, almost to a fault. The reason for why it's super low on, like, number 10 is precisely because of that, you know? I feel like they kind of geared too much into that narrative ground that they forget to make a fun video game as well. There's a lot of stuff that gets in the way, you know? There's a lot of shit like, you know, taking care of your thirst, taking care of your hunger, your stamina, your horse's stamina, taking care of your horse, washing it, you know, taking care of your clothing. It's almost like San Andreas, but, like, taken to the extreme in a bad way, you know? And you have to, like, micromanage all this shit. It kind of reminds me of No Man's Sky, where you're, like, constantly recharging all of your resources. But here's, like, you gotta clean your gun and do this, and, like, you have to reset your ammo every time. You can't break out your weapon in certain places. Or, like, when you do certain missions, you have to do them in exactly the way that the game wants you to do them. You really don't have any freedom or flexibility for you to kind of play the game in the way that you want to, despite the fact that it's like an open world, free roaming sandbox. But at the same time, it wants to be a very linear, by the books, like, do it this way because that's the way that we set it out to be. It's really annoying, and that's what really pushes it down. But at the end of the day, I had an incredibly good time. You know, the graphics are fucking beautiful on PS4. I'm playing this on regular PS4, not even PS4 Pro, and I still think it looks amazing on a 1080p screen. The voice acting, the story, all of the characters, you know, having, like, your little base with your little, like, ragtag group of outlaws, I think is awesome. You know, it's a cowboy game through and through. Oh, hold on. Lighting. There we go. Lighting. There we go. Hey. But, you know, it's a very, high production value cowboy game. And honestly, I really don't have a lot of standards when it comes to, like, you know, I don't have a metric for, like, good cowboy games other than Red Dead Redemption 1. And I feel like, you know, it is very much on that same level. I think Red Dead Redemption 2, despite its flaws, I still think it's a fantastic game that I think everybody should definitely try at least once. Even if it is just free roaming, because admittedly a lot of the missions are a lot of just walking and hearing people talk, shoot a lot of people, and that's it. You're done, you know? And then walk around, have other people give you exposition, shoot more people. Very cyclical, very repetitive. But, like, really exploring and taking in the world on your own terms is definitely when the game shines the most. It just sucks that the game doesn't really expose that all that much. It decides, it really goes for the whole, like, HBO show narrative kind of stuff. So that is a little upsetting. But yeah, number 10, it's still incredibly solid, and I still recommend it regardless. Now, the next game on the list, number 9, goes to the other game that is receiving all of the fucking awards. If it's not Red Dead Redemption 2, it's God of Motherfucking War. And with good reason. Again, it does have some flaws in that almost like AAA game Oscar bait, where, like, you know, just like Last of Us and a whole bunch of other Sony titles that follow the same thing of, like, over-the-shoulder storytelling, just walking very slowly, having somebody spit, you know, and regurgitate out the story to you, and then you can move freely with, you know, barely, you know, a limited amount of weapons, and super, like, you know, again, very HBO, Hollywood movie kind of style. when it could have been a much more fun game. But even then, again, same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. Despite its flaws, and despite my personal frustrations with it, and despite all the things that it could have been, it is still super duper, like, top-notch, high-tier stuff. I played it a lot, and I love, you know, going into the shops, meeting all the different characters in this world. Obviously, the interaction between Kratos and Atreus, how everything is kind of far into the future, bearded dad of war, and his voice acting with those boy, and all that stuff is... You just grow to love it. You really do grow to love it. It's an adventure. It honestly is. It's a very high production, almost like, you know, like Avengers, like when you go out to see a Marvel movie, right? You know, it's not the deepest thing in the world, but, you know, because you have that history with Kratos from the previous games, and you've seen the technology evolve, seen, you know, the goals in mind when it comes to gameplay, seeing all that involved, seeing the developers kind of work their magic with, you know, all of the different things that they want to do, doing the stuff with the axe and then bringing back the blades, eventually, and, again, all of the interactions with Atreus, and seeing him change and evolve over time, seeing all the ginormous bosses, all of the crazy, you know, opponents that you have to face. It's just a very... I don't feel like it breaks any new ground, honestly. But I just think it is such a high production, super duper, very well made thing. Like, you can see there was a lot of love put into it. Like, even like one of the developers like cried on live stream when the game came out. Like, it just, dude, like, honestly, like, it gets fucking amazing after a certain point. And yes, you know, I feel like they could have made it more like the older ones, where it's a lot more like hack and slash, you know, more like hands-on. That's usually, you know, in my personal opinion, I like, you know, God of War 1, 2, and 3, and even Ascension, a little bit more than how the gameplay style is here. But, I still respect it for what it wants to be. It wants to be different. It wants to really mix it up. They definitely came into this with a different goal in mind. And I feel like they succeed, you know? Independently of what I personally would want out of a God of War game. I feel like, you know, there's even times where, like, you know, this game gets a little, like, snooty of, like, oh, you know, we're not like that, you know, like in the past, right? Where you had, like, you know, topless ladies and Kratos having sex with, you know, a whole bunch of girls and have it be, like, super, like, gory and like that. You know, I feel like this God of War almost wants to be, like, you know, almost, like, woke of, like, oh, you know, we're not like that anymore. We're, like, you know, Hollywood style, you know, better. We're better than that, which I think is kind of stupid. But, even then, it's still a goddamn good game. And, it's, you know, I respect that on those grounds. So, yeah, number 9 is there. Number 8, is gonna be probably the last, like, super hyper popular AAA game that I'm gonna have on the list. And the rest of them are gonna be relatively unexpected when it comes to, like, the general populace. And that's just not me being a hipster. Again, this is all just based on my personal enjoyment of all these games. And all of these are great, you know, just because certain games are lower on the list or higher, that doesn't mean that one is worse than the other. Again, just my personal level of how much I enjoy them. And so the next one is Spider-Man PS4. This game is definitely higher. Come on, camera. Come on. Please focus. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed Spider-Man. If you want to talk about all of these big, high production value, almost like Hollywood Oscar bait, Game Awards Oscar bait, type of video game, super high production value AAA titles. If I really had to choose one that stands out of all of them, is definitely Spider-Man PS4. You know why? Because it doesn't do all of that bullshit that Red Dead Redemption and God of War did. That over-the-shoulder storytelling, slowly having to walk around, you know, all of those Mary Jane segments and all those, like, fucking Miles Morales segments, all of those boring parts of the game. Okay, well, that's kept to a minimum. And most of it is you with, like, the camera stretching out where you can see a lot, swinging around freely, doing a billion missions, unlocking super suits, fighting a whole bunch of bosses, doing a bunch of different missions, doing a bunch of different challenges, and awesome DLC, awesome graphics, awesome music, awesome voice acting. Yuri Lowenthal, my boy Yosuke Hanamura, playing as Spider-Man this time around, and he does a great job. The cutscenes are great, the story is great. It's like watching a Marvel movie. It literally is. There's even a Stan Lee cameo in there. It's like a Marvel movie. A lot of the stuff that happens towards the end is so heart-wrenchingly, like, emotional, you know. All of this shit with, like, Dr. Octopus and Aunt May, and, you know, Spider-Man really showing, like, the awesome thing about Spider-Man, that he's just a regular-ass guy, you know, the story of, like, him trying to, like, balance his life in his superhero life. After like 8 years of being Spider-Man, everybody is older. You know, he's still got a thing going on with Mary Jane. He's not really, well, like, working for the Daily Bugle anymore. J. Jonah Jameson has, like, his own podcasts and stuff. You know, all of these things that really make you feel like you're returning into this world after 8 years, you know, after a long time. The last time that I really got into a Spider-Man game was Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 2. So it really does feel like time has progressed. Like, I grew up along with this game. Or the game grew up along with me. Seeing all these references with the suits and, you know, upgrading, and the fighting is so fluid and awesome. Again, this game has what the other AAA games don't have, which is fun. Focusing on the fun factor instead of trying to, you know, replicate and be like this super, like, awesome, high quality HBO show. Spider-Man tried to be a super high quality, fun video game. You know, it remembers that it is a video game first and foremost, and not like this fucking like movie art piece that you can use for, like, again, Game Awards Oscar bait. And my camera keeps going out of focus. It's a little frustrating. It's probably because I'm like doing this and it's, you know, confusing the camera. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, it's a little strange. This is probably more of a this is probably speaks a lot more to the AAA games and speaks a lot more to these corporations about, you know, how they should go about these games. When I compliment Spider-Man PS4 for being the most video game out of all of these other video games that, you know, try to be very much like not like a video game, you know, because they have so much like story shit and so much like narrative, linear, like, you know, very strict stuff in there, like in Red Dead, where, like, you know, you can only do things in one way. And in Spider-Man, I feel like you have a little bit more freedom with it. Even though Spider-Man does have definitely, like, you know, quick time events and cutscenes where you can only do things one way. But still, it feels a lot more natural in Spider-Man. Everything is a lot more fun and free-flowing. That's a true open-world game right there, as opposed to Red Dead, where it kind of gives you the illusion of an open world, but at the end of the day, you just gotta do stuff in the way the game tells you to do it. Yeah, so that's my number 8 choice. I like Spider-Man PS4, again, because out of all the big AAA games that are gaining all of the awards, this one is the most video game out of all these video games that are trying really hard to also, like, you know, try to not be video games, but also try to be video games at the same time, you know? Like, it's strange. You know, I don't understand why Red Dead and God of War have to, like, neglect certain things that make them fun to begin with, when Spider-Man just, like, takes all of that shit in stride, you know? That's why I put him up higher than all of the other ones. Alright, so number 7 on the list, we have... Okay, so now here's where you're gonna start seeing differences. Here's where I really start to, like, branch out from the AAA stuff into a lot more niche, focused stuff that I am personally very much into. And if you guys follow my live streams and my videos, you guys already have a pretty good idea of what my games of the year are, or at least, like, a good chunk of them are. And you're gonna start to get a feel for it after I start laying them out. So, my number 7 on the list is the Tetris Effect. I absolutely fell in love with this game from the very first moment that I saw the first gameplay video. From the very first time that I saw that, like, Nick Robinson video, where, like, the Tetris, you know, the competitive Tetris player was playing in VR and saying that he loved it. Like, if that guy loves it, then I'm gonna adore it, you know? This is from, the same people that brought you Rez Infinite, from the same people that brought you Child of Eden, from the same people that got you Lumines. It takes all 3 of those games. It takes the puzzle game element of Lumines. It takes the music and like the awesome, beautiful visuals of Child of Eden, and it takes the music and some of the visual elements from Rez Infinite. It takes all 3 and it turns it into a fantastic Tetris game. Now, granted, my personal favorite Tetris game has always been Tetris DS on the original Nintendo DS. This game definitely surpasses it with 2 words: virtual reality. Holy shit. I cannot play this game without, well, actually, no, I totally can. But I'm being hyperbolic. But honestly, when I get the opportunity, I always play this game with the PlayStation VR headset on, because it is so awesome. Being surrounded by, like, weird light dolphins and, like, spirit whales, or, like, you know, a red, like bonfire of, like, a big Tetris block where you're there doing Tetris, and you have these little, like, res-looking dudes, like, you know, worshipping it like it's a monolith or whatever. It's just visually striking, visually amazing. The music is awesome. The music isn't as good without the input of the player in there. You know, there's a symbiotic relationship between the game and the player where you have to interact to keep contributing to the sound as you play regular ass Tetris. I love the added mechanic of the zone, where when you're in the zone, time freezes and you can keep erasing as many blocks as you can after doing some pretty clever setups and doing like a maximum of like 16 you know, eliminations of the Tetris road, right? So you have the regular Tetris, but then you can do like a dodecatris or like you know, polytris or nonatris or all of these different combinations by stopping time and eliminating more rows than just the typical 4. And so that creates a whole different world of strategies now. And there's like, and if it's too difficult for you, you can change it into like a chill mode, into a relax mode, an infinite mode, challenge modes. There's a ton of modes for single player. And of course, you can go online and take a look at the leaderboards. And on PS4, it's great. On 4K, it's great. In VR, it's fantastic. And playing it all with a controller, you know, it's so comfortable and nice. And I adore this game. Like Tetris, there really is impressive how they can like still reinvent Tetris in such an awesome way. You know, to me, this feels like when Pac-Man got the Championship Edition, where like it's the same Pac-Man but different and more visually striking and has awesome music. To me, this Tetris is like the Pac-Man Championship Edition of Tetris, and I highly recommend it. If you have a PS4 and you have like fucking like 20 bucks lying around, this game is like 25 bucks, so like it's super cheap as well. I really want more people to play this game. I don't hear people talk about it enough, and I feel like this absolutely deserves a spot in my top 10 games of the year. I cannot stop playing it every chance I get. Literally, like, because of the Nintendo Switch, I'm playing a lot of Switch games. So literally the only reason for why I turn on my PS4 is so that I can put on the VR headset and play Tetris Effect for a little bit before going to bed. It's that good. Now, moving on from, again, speaking of the Nintendo Switch, now that I sneaked that in there, let's go ahead and talk about a certain Nintendo Switch game that I personally fell in love with from a series that I never got into until much recently. I got a review code for this game. Thank you, NIS America, for the review code, because you guys introduced me to Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. So this is my very first Ys game ever. When I first played it, I said, oh, is it Wise? You know, no, it's not pronounced Wise, it's pronounced Ys. So I'm pretty sure this game came out in Japan like maybe a year or two ago, and the game was out last year as well, in the West, I'm pretty sure. But it had a lot of drama behind it because apparently the localization was really bad, the controls didn't work, it was like a really shoddy version of it. And it wasn't until a whole bunch of updates and this Nintendo Switch re-release where they kind of fixed a lot of stuff, and apparently even then there's still a few problems. There are a few typos here and there, but overall, this like, you know, bigger, better, improved version of Ys 8, I feel, in my personal opinion, is good enough, even though this has gotten previous releases. It got a 2018 release on Nintendo Switch, and I absolutely adored it. Like, honestly, I have not played any other Ys game. This is my one and only Ys game, and now I want to fucking play all of them. This is from, you know, Falcom. So, again, no shock there. These are from the same people that bring you The Legend of Heroes and Cold Steel and all that stuff. So you bet your ass they're gonna give you a good-ass RPG to play, you know? It's semi-open world where, basically you're a dude, an adventurer, that gets stranded on a deserted island that's, like, cursed with, like, dinosaurs and ancient civilizations and shit. And, all of the people that were out there in the boat along with you, you have to rescue them. And so you rescue them, and you start to build a base, and the base gets bigger, and they're all really charming, endearing characters that you love so much. Of course, there's plot development. As I said, there's ancient civilizations, and that civilization has like a whole different story on its own, you know? It's almost like I'm playing two games in one. And just like in the picture right here, there are technically like two protagonists. There's Dana and then there's Idle Kristen. And you kind of switch between one and the other. And you can play as a whole bunch of different characters, where you go out there and you fight against, you know, dinosaurs and monsters and plants. And it all integrates on this one giant island. And they all have like little dungeons and secrets. There's almost like a Metroidvania type thing going on, where like there's an obstacle and you can't get past it until you go back, you explore somewhere else, you get a special item that allows you to like walk over something or breathe underwater, or sometimes you have to like, you know, do stuff in the ancient civilization so that it affects the future and you get access to certain areas. So like, there are many moments in this game where like you're shifting from the past to the present, and it's like how the hell, like the story gets fucking crazy after a certain point, and it is so amazingly fun. Do not let the big giant number 8 scare you. This story holds up perfectly well entirely on its own. You do not have to play ease 7, 6, 5, 4, none of those. This game stands completely strong on its own, and because it's on the Nintendo Switch, you can play it with a Pro Controller on the television, or you can take it with you everywhere. This is why I put this game on my list despite it being a previous release. It's important. The fact that it's a Switch release is important for me specifically, because the portability makes a really, really big difference to me. I've been able to take this goddamn game everywhere and play it and absolutely love it. Obviously, it's not at perfect 60 FPS, 1080p like in other releases like on PC, but I still love it all the same. You have to go play Ys 8. If you guys want a fantastic, really, really good RPG to play for your Nintendo Switch that's new, that's vibrant, with great characters and great story and great music and awesome gameplay, and there's so many things to do, you're gonna stay glued to your fucking screen, Ys 8 is the game for you. I honestly cannot stress that enough. As a person that has never played any other Ys game, as a newcomer, I give this my full blessing as one of my top 10 games of the year for 2018. It is that fucking good. You guys have to play Ys 8 if you haven't already. Now, is there any other game that I would say maybe trumps, you know, Ys 8 or something that's better in terms of my level of enjoyment? Well, you know, Toby Fox is knocking on the door right now with Deltarune. So, my number 5 game of the year for 2018 is absolutely Deltarune. I remember when Undertale came out, I think it was like my number 4 game of the year. I think at the time, Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain came out, and that was my number 1. But after playing Undertale for a lot more time and getting into the community and seeing like the fan theories and fan remixes, music, seeing how much Undertale has held on over time, so much more than any of the other games that I featured on that list back then in 2015, is a testament to how amazing it is. You know, all made by one guy, Toby Fox, over the course of like 2.5 years. And now, I think like 3 years later, he comes out with a free demo for a semi-sequel, alternate reality kind of story in Deltarune. And again, you know, in before all the comments that say, did you know that Deltarune is an anagram for Undertale? Yes, I know. It's almost like a meme at this point. Everybody points that out in the comments. But, yeah, man, when the game came out on Halloween night, I posted my entire playthrough of, like 5.5 hour playthrough of Deltarune Pacifist Run, which apparently is the only run. But, yeah, you know, like, the humor is still intact. Toby Fox has not missed a single fucking beat when it comes to the writing. You know, like, you can tell that Undertale was not a fluke at all, because everything is still consistent, everything still feels like Undertale, you know, and I just love how Toby Fox did not stay steady, you know? Like, he succeeded in the same way that how Notch made Undertale, and he could have just, like, sold off the game to some other company, right? He could have done what Notch did and be like, you know what, Microsoft, you can have it. I'm sticking with my millions and billions of dollars, and I'm just gonna live in a mansion and just live out the rest of my life comfortably, right? No, he doesn't do that. You know, he could have easily have sold Undertale to like Nintendo and just have it be on the Switch forever, right? He could have sold it out to someone else, or he could have just done Undertale 2 and just have it be like, the boy is in the underground again, and he meets Toriel and Papyrus and Sans again, you know? He could have just easily recycled everything and just done exactly the same game and just slapped the fucking 2 on it, and everybody would have eaten that shit up. Everybody would have loved it, and he would have gotten so much money. He did not do that at all. He took all of the shit that people held so dear and remixed it and changed it and iterated on it and improved upon it. And the music is so much better, and the battle system got completely redone. And the writing is super sharp, way sharper than before. And like he is still so fucking creative with all of the different worlds that he's made, the different types of enemies, the way that you confront them, the way that you fight them because of this new battle system, the way that you have to take the character's personality into account when you want to fight and be successful in a fight. The fact that, you know, that the comedy is just so amazing, and that they can introduce brand new characters and have us fall in love with them in the same way that we did with Undertale. You know, one of the things that I always say is that if I could like erase my memory of one game so that I can experience it all over again from the very beginning, it has to be Undertale. And I know realistically that that's never gonna happen, but I might have gotten my wish here, because Deltarune I feel like is the next best scenario for that, you know, of like me just re-experiencing and re-falling in love with Undertale yet again in the form of Deltarune, where it's an alternate reality, an alternate story with some hints of Undertale in there, and a lot of mystery, a lot of like fright and uncertainty, but also comedy and love and amazingness. That strange mixture that only Toby Fox has been capable of doing. And honestly, all of my respect to that fucking crazy son of a bitch that is able to pull all this shit off. This is just chapter 1, a free demo, chapter 1, and is my number 5 most favorite game of 2018. Suck it to all of the other games that you know, require like fucking $300 billion to make like, you know, a relatively fun but also kind of insipid game that tries to be, you know, something else. You know, and then you have this game that totally fucking shits on all of them. You know, it's amazing. You know, that just goes to show that you'll need less money, less budget, less, you know, Hollywood production and Oscar bait, and more heart. No pun intended. More heart put into your game and more love put into it. You know, that just goes to show that all it takes is just a really goddamn good idea and a lot of fucking creativity, instead of like 500 people working like, you know, 24-hour work days, you know, overworking themselves, not seeing their families and shit just for this cowboy game that is like, well, it's fun, but, you know, well, as opposed to Deltarune, which is like almost perfect, you know. I do have some criticisms, but you know, like I'm just gushing right now. So yeah, number 5, most favorite game of 2018, Deltarune, Toby Fox. You absolutely deserved it, and you deserve it even more because it's free. I would have paid so much more money for this, but you did. You put it out for free. So, hey man, I cannot wait for you to eventually put out the full game, because I know that's happening. I know it's happening. It'll happen someday. Anyway, number 4 Game of the Year 2018 goes to Dragon Ball FighterZ. I get the feeling that some people might completely miss out on Dragon Ball FighterZ in the sense of this game came out super early on, I think in January or February. Pretty sure it was like around late January, early February that this game came out. It is usually those games that end up coming out in Q1 that people forget about, or people just assume it's like, wait, didn't the game come out in 2017? Oh, no, wait, it came out this year. Yes, it came out this year. Dragon Ball FighterZ came out in 2018, and it has not slowed down at all, man. This is probably one of Arc System Works' most popular fighting games, more popular than BlazBlue, more popular than, like, anything they have ever made before. Dragon Ball is a really massive brand, especially now with Dragon Ball Super and the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and all of these things Dragon Ball related happening. This renaissance, this resurgence of Dragon Ball really made the game stand out on its own. But on top of that, the beautiful art style, the great music, the graphics are absolutely amazing. They give a lot of love and attention to recreating parts of the anime and the manga alike. There are a lot of like camera angles and little shots that are like exactly like copy paste from the original manga, which is delicious. It's absolutely amazing. The fighting system, at least in my personal opinion, leaves a lot to be desired. I would have liked it if it was like a bit of a more of a traditional fighting game, but they do simplify some things with some auto combos and stuff like that. I would have personally liked more modes, you know, in the same style as BlazBlue, where it has a lot of stuff to play around with on a single player basis. With Dragon Ball FighterZ, it only has an arcade mode, the story mode, and then the rest of it is online, which kind of sucks. But everything that is there, everything that is the fighting, it is incredible. You know, the way that You trigger all of the Kamehamehas and the ultimates, the dramatic finishers. The entire story mode is like you're watching a whole brand new Dragon Ball movie. You know, everything was done with so much love and attention, with so much consideration. You have the Japanese voices and the English voices. Both of them are absolutely amazing. I flip-flop from one to the other very frequently because I love them both. Playing online, I guess, is fun. I'm not a big fan of online. I always get my ass kicked, so it ends up not being fun. I always do arcade mode and versus and story, and I'm pretty happy with that. But, you know, that's why I want more modes, you know? And they have kept iterating on it, you know? More updates. You have, like, Z Union and Z tournaments and squad battles where, like, you know, it's a 3-on-3 battle, right? So you have, like, 3 people here, 3 people there, and you have them fight and taking turns and tagging in and tagging out, which is amazing to see on, like, YouTube videos online and stuff like that. Tournaments are so hype when it comes to Dragon Ball because it is so visually striking. All the stuff with the Dragon Balls and, you know, having to get them in battle is also amazing. The design of the characters, all the characters that they decided to include, you know, especially with the Season Pass, with the DLC, you know, Broly, and, you know, regular Goku, regular Vegeta, all of these amazing characters, Zamasu, and, who else? They added Bardock as well into the game. So many really awesome characters. Cooler was in there too, Android 17, all of these characters just made the game even better than before, you know? It was good enough just with the characters that were in there as a default, right? But, you know, you got Super Saiyan Blue, and yeah, just so much. And I honestly don't see the game showing any signs of stopping. Please focus, camera. Please focus. Come on. You're being a diva, camera. Thank you very much. Because of the massive success that Dragon Ball FighterZ has, I don't see any signs of this game stopping. You know how, like, in Guilty Gear, you have, like, Guilty Gear Exard, and then Revelator, and Revelator 2, and all of these different upgrades? For this game that is already pretty niche on its own, right? Imagine with all of the success that they have in Dragon Ball. You seriously think that they're just gonna end it here? And that they're not gonna do, like, a Season 2 of DLC characters, or come up with, like, Dragon Ball FighterZ 2.0, and have, like, an upgrade that adds so much more stuff to it? No. They're absolutely gonna follow the money and keep going, which makes me super duper excited for what they're gonna do for new characters, new stages, new costumes, new colors, new soundtrack, new stages, new everything. They have opened Pandora's box for a lot of possibilities. They have a pot of gold right in front of them, and they have to take advantage of it by, like, you know, taking all this Dragon Ball hype and, you know, just iterating on it on this already absolutely fantastic game that I still play, is on Switch, is on PS4. I do like to play it a lot, and yeah, man, it's incredible. It's an incredible game. Easily, you know, the best Dragon Ball Z game that has come out in the last fucking 10 years. Like, I remember the last, you know, favorite Dragon Ball game that I had was Budokai 3. You know, back on PlayStation 2, that was the last time I played a legitimately awesome Dragon Ball game. That and probably Revenge of the Saiyans or something on DS, but that's an RPG, you know, we're talking fighting games. And so, yeah, you know, this completely, you know, brought back Dragon Ball in an incredible way. And I really am interested in seeing what these guys do to make it better. Now, speaking of amazing fighting games, here's my number 3 most favorite game of 2018, and that is, of course, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I was already, when I was compiling the list, this was on my number 1 spot, you know, for a while. But then I had to move it down a little bit, because there are other games that I enjoyed more than Smash. But yeah, Smash is incredible. I mean, it's fucking Super Smash Bros. I mean, I'm talking in obvious terms right now. Everybody knows that Smash is great. It is one of the greatest crossovers ever created. One of, for sure. You know, the fact that Masahiro Sakurai, this fucking madman, was able to, like, bring everybody back from, like, Xenoblade to Sonic to Pac-Man to Solid Snake, you know, and even iterating more on it, even expanding more with, like, Bayonetta, and also having Joker from Persona 5 be DLC, and a lot of crazy and really creative Nintendo-ass choices like the Piranha Plant, you know, just things like that. The game is so silly, but also so incredibly fun. World of Light is really fun. Regular Smash is really fun. Playing with all of the different modes, I never thought that I would love Smashdown so much than how I do now. You know, like, that is like my go-to, my favorite way of playing is doing Smashdown with a bunch of CPUs. You know, the online seems to be, you know, kind of crappy at the beginning, but is getting a little better, and you know, they iterated on it with the tags and the global smash power level. Classic mode is really creative and nice, you know, seeing everything be tailored to like the specific character that's there. 74 characters and even more on the way. Like seriously, like you have the Piranha Plant and 5 more, so like borderline 80 characters in this goddamn game. It is absolutely the ultimate crossover. I cannot speak about this game well enough. It is one of the most highest selling games on Switch right now. It has sold so many Switch copies. You know, the reason for why the Nintendo Switch is like at the top of its game right now is mostly because of Super Smash Bros. Selling so much. And again, just like Dragon Ball FighterZ, man, there's no signs of stopping. They're bringing out the Season Pass with all of these DLC characters, with a stage and music to come with it. They started off crazy with Joker from Persona 5 and the Piranha Plant, so it can only go up from here. Like, it's gonna be even more hype. I am absolutely streaming more of this game, I'm playing more of this game, I'm talking more about this game, and I'm sure I've already said a lot of things that, you know, that have not already been said a million times. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It's the same awesome Smash as always, but iterated upon, improved upon, visually, sound-wise, stages, stage morph, you know. There's so much attention to detail, love and attention to every single little tiny thing in everything in this game, and I cannot respect it more. Like, honestly, my number 3 most favorite game of all time. Every night that I go to bed, I play a little bit of Smash, and yeah, there's literally maybe like there's a couple criticisms, I guess. You know, I personally really enjoyed Smash Run on 3DS. That's gone. There's a lot of stuff from the previous versions that are not here. No break the targets, no board the platforms, no you know, the character movement customization from Smash 4, how you could like have the regular players, you know, like Mario has like the big fireball or a smaller, faster one. All of that customization I thought was really awesome, but I guess nobody used it, that's why they removed it. But I guess the Mii Fighters still have that, you know. There's a lot of stuff that I really liked from the 3DS version that is gone here, so, you know, it does kind of suck, but that still doesn't stop the fact that everyone is here, and everything in this game is a pleasure to play through. Now, we're almost done here. We're around 45 minutes in. We're gonna go for the last 2 games. Here comes my number 2 most favorite game of the year 2018, the year of our Lord 2018, and that is Dragon Quest XI. You guys know that I'm a massive Japanese games fan. I love Japanese RPGs. They're my bread and butter. I love them to death. You guys know that I'm always gonna have at least one Japanese RPG on my Game of the Year list. You guys know me. Fucking Deltarune is on there, so you know. And also Ys 8. You know, Ys 8 is a really big one. Again, I was kind of fluctuating between Ys 8 and this one in terms of putting it on number 2. But then, you know, Smash came and Deltarune came, and those kind of, you know, were high up there, you know? Yeah, I mean, what can I say about Dragon Quest? Dragon Quest has always been a legendarily amazing series, you know? From the very beginning, like, I started playing Dragon Quest from those, DS games, those DS remakes that came out of, 4, 5, and 6, and then I played Dragon Quest 8, which is also amazing. I recently played Dragon Quest 7. I'm currently playing through Dragon Quest 9 on DS, and every single one, there's literally nothing bad that I could ever say about any Dragon Quest game ever, because all of them have been legendarily good in my mind, in my eyes, and in my heart. You know, every single one has been a legendarily amazing experience that I keep in my heart all the time. Especially, you know, games like, you know, 4, 5, and 6, you know, like, those 3 have, like, one of the best fucking stories in the entire series. Come on, camera. There we go. And Dragon Quest 8. Dragon Quest 8 is definitely, like, my number 1 most favorite Dragon Quest, but, Dragon Quest 11, it just might surpass it, honestly. Like, if I really want to think about it, Dragon Quest 11 is so much more of an improvement visually, than Dragon Quest 8. I mean, granted, I love the soundtrack for Dragon Quest 8 so much more than in 11, but, you know, I've been playing a lot of this game offline. I did stream a lot of it, but unfortunately, you know, stuff got in the way, newer games came in, but I have always tried to put in an effort and play a little bit more of it, offline on my own, and the story gets freaking crazy, man. And I mean, again, it's Dragon Quest. The story always gets crazy. There's always some fucking time travel bullshit that always happens. Like, man. It's just so good. So good. All of the characters. I love everybody in the character. I don't give a fuck. You know, all the characters are amazing. Even the protagonist is awesome. I love how the story takes a lot of twists and turns. Like, I feel like, you know, Dragon Quest is sort of stuck in the 1980s in a good way. You know, and the fact that there's still these novel, very mature stories. I love the fantasy element to it. I love the enemies, the designs, you know, the slimes, you know, the cruel cumbers, all of these different enemies that I am so used to seeing in like crappy polygons on DS or in like pixelated form, you know, seeing them in this kind of old school style, see completely revamped and have them translate so well, so perfectly well with these amazing looking graphics on PlayStation 4. It's something that you have to see for yourself on a television. And, you know, the fact that it still has that classic JRPG style, you know, it is very much like the Legend of Heroes games, or very much like, you know, God of War in a sense, because, you know, one thing that I said about God of War is that it doesn't break any ground, but it's just very highly well produced and takes a lot of care of the smaller details. And I would say the same thing about Dragon Quest. I feel like Dragon Quest 11 has that thing going for it, where like it is a very traditional RPG. And that's exactly what we need right now. Because, you know, there are a lot of games that kind of try to go the extra mile, and maybe some of them fail, some of them don't. And, you know, sometimes you just kind of want some classics, you know? Sometimes you just want that old school feeling. And that definitely happened for me. And with this other game, that's going to be my number one. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't anything about Dragon Quest XI that I would say is a complaint. Especially with this American version. I think the only thing that I can complain about is that there's a 3DS version that I really, really wanted that never came out here in English. So, fuck whoever made the decision to not bring the 3DS version over here. Go fuck yourself. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm sorry, but I really wanted the 3DS version, and they didn't bring it in English. So, fuck you to whoever made that decision. Especially with, again, my selection for number one, when I think about that. But, yeah, you know, we got the PS4 version at least, and that one has so much more stuff in it, and the English version specifically, that the Japanese version doesn't have. For one, this English version has voice acting. The Japanese version doesn't have any voice acting at all. Except for the Switch version. The Nintendo Switch version of Dragon Quest XI is gonna have Japanese voices. But, you know, the PS4 one doesn't. You know, this Dragon Quest version has a dash button, you know, for you to run faster through everything. The Japanese version doesn't have that. And there's a whole bunch of small little upgrades and improvements that the English version specifically has that the Japanese version does not have at all, that they're going to integrate into the Nintendo Switch version later on. Now, I'm wondering, are we going to get Dragon Quest XI on Switch? Because I want that one too. But yeah, I honestly, there's nothing bad that I can say about Dragon Quest XI. Specifically not this English version, because this one, in particular, has so much more than the Japanese version. This is the very first time where I have ever said that a Japanese game is actually superior in its English iteration than in its original Japanese. Usually, I'm the one that always says, oh, the original is better, the Japanese version is better. No way, man. This version is so much better than the original one, because they improve it and iterate on it, and they add voice acting, and they add so much stuff. Maybe, like, the soundtrack is not as good as in other games, you know, like the meaty soundtrack, you know, kind of leaves a lot to be desired. It'd be great if there was, like, a full-on orchestra doing this shit, like an 8. But, you know, you can't always get what you want. But it's incredible. It's incredible. Just like all the other Dragon Quests. Like, again, you know, like, what do I have to say about Dragon Quest? It's Dragon Quest. And Dragon Quest has always been legendarily good. Like, it really pisses me off that, you know, here in America, it is nowhere near as popular as all the other games, like God of War or Final Fantasy and all that stuff. It is so near and dear to my heart. Like, every single experience is a life-changing, amazing experience. And people in America just don't give a fuck. Which at least not in a mainstream sense, and that just upsets me. That's why it is super high on my list. Number 2, most favorite game of all time. Now, with that said, what surpasses that? What's better than Dragon Quest XI? Or at least, in terms of my level of enjoyment. What did I personally enjoy more than Dragon Quest XI that I fucking hyped up so much? Well, here it is. Just to end it, just to give myself like one clean hour. We've been going for 54 minutes. I only need like 6 or 5 minutes to talk about this game. My number one most favorite game of 2018 that I could not stop playing. If I was not studying in college, I was playing this game everywhere, all the time. And when I wasn't playing this game, I was thinking about playing this game. I've had dreams about playing this game. That's how much I love it. I explored every single little nook and cranny of this game. I loved every single little piece of dialogue in this game. Usually I play games with like music on or like with a podcast, or I'm like working on something. I'm like multitasking when I play. Nuh-uh. When I play this game, my full 110% attention goes into playing this game and enjoying and chewing on every single little moment of it. That is this game. And so my number one game of the year for 2018 is Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey Redux. This is what I was talking about before, where like, some of these games might be a little questionable and having them be on the list or not. But with this game, I feel very strongly that this Redux is full on a 100% remake of Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey on the original DS. If you compare the original one with this one, both of them are two entirely different games. At least I feel, in my opinion. They improved on the art. They added voice acting for practically everything. I think they revamped the music a little bit as well. They added more demons. The music, just the story itself, because they have all of these enhancements, the story is so much more intriguing. They added a full-on opening animation for the game. When you first load it up, you almost get like a fucking movie trailer for this fucking game. And it looks incredible. It's amazing. It gets you super pumped up for the game. The music is almost like American propaganda or something, like dun 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 dun. Every single song is kind of in that same style, but it adds so much to this world. It adds so much to the kind of person that you are, to the character that you play as. Like the design of the Demonica suits is so iconic and amazing. All of the demons are here, like Jack Frost and Baphomet, and like there's a bunch of new ones as well. You have like Mastema. The way that they expanded on the alignments, having different endings for chaos, for neutral, for good, and then having different endings beyond that with the Womb of Grief. The Womb of Grief is an entirely different, brand new dungeon that they added for this game only, and it's a whole fucking thing. Like, seriously, I was talking about Dragon Quest XI and wanting like a classic RPG experience. Well, Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey definitely gave me that old school classic, like first person, like the entire game is this, like first person perspective, going from one grid to the other, like chook, doing that. For some people, that sounds like a fucking nightmare. For me, it's a match made in heaven. I love these kinds of games. I love the exploration. I love having a completely empty map and having to fill all of it out. To me, that's like some ASMR, like satisfying stuff to like end like a 5-hour session of this game with an entire map just full of shit to explore. Now, granted, despite even like the difficulty levels, like that's another thing that they added into this game, is that before you had a very small amount of difficulty levels, or I think no difficulty level. No, you had a couple in the original one. But here on the 3DS remake of Strange Journey, they actually accommodate for more casual players or people that don't want to fucking torture themselves or don't have as much time as I used to, like me. They added a super duper casual, like super easy mode for you to get into, which only affects the battles. And that's important because you can just blow through all the demon battles very easily, but that doesn't stop all of the puzzle solving in the dungeons and having to figure out and remember where you're supposed to be and activate this switch that activates this, and then this thing is a teleporter that takes you here, and you have to remember the combination to go here, and then you have to move on to a different plane of existence so that, the dungeon is a totally different look, to a different sector, and then you have to explore that, and then that gives you a portal to a different sector, which gives you a material, go back to the base, upgrade your gear, come back, have access to more shit, and then beat a boss and continue the story with a fuck ton of dialogue, all of it fully voiced with great sound. It's this game, for me, for what I want, for the kind of player that I am, for the kind of player that looks for something very specific, old school RPG experience on the 3DS, you know, portable. You can take it anywhere. I don't have to wait for me to get back home when I'm all tired after a long day. You know, I can take it anywhere I go on the fucking 3DS. Came out this year. Everybody's still going on about like how the fucking 3DS is dead. Nah, bitch. We could have had Dragon Quest XI, but we didn't, so fuck you for that. But we got Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. And this game, again, for the kind of player that I am, for the kind of stuff that I'm looking for in the game, it's perfect. Like, it is practically perfect. You know, one of my favorite Shin Megami Tensei games is Persona 3 Fez, Shin Megami Tensei 4, and 4 Apocalypse. And for the longest time, 4 and 4 Apocalypse combined was my favorite Shin Megami Tensei / Persona game ever. Like, that was like my number one for me. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Strange Journey Redux, this 3DS game specifically, for me, surpasses that. I like that this is its own little isolated story about the Schwarzwald. It talks a lot about humanity, a lot of commentary about the small little contradictions that humanity has. The demons just kind of throwing a bunch of wisdom at you, negotiating with the demons, upgrading your gear, getting the weapons, just spending so much time exploring the dungeons and being challenged, incredibly challenged with these super fucking brain-busting, you know, dungeons. By the end of it, you know, a lot of these are really easy. It's not until like the last 3 that become fucking impossible to get through, unless you have like some fucking notes to take, or you have some paper for you to like really draw out, like, okay, this place takes you here, and this takes you here, and takes you here. And it is so incredibly satisfying to solve it, and to get through it, and defeat Memelef, or, you know, go to the Womb of Grief, and, you know, talk to the brand new character, Alex, you know, like, this, red colored character in the center, with the headphones going like this, that character doesn't exist in the original, and she does exist here, and she's pretty significant with the story. There's so much here in this game, you know, again, as opposed to The World Ends With You, where they just barely added anything new. This is all new. It's an incredible game. Again, for the kind of player that I am, Japanese game fan, I love that old school shit. To me, this game is as close to a perfect video game as it'll probably ever get. The reason for why, despite the Nintendo Switch existing, the reason for why I have still not given up on my 3DS is for games like this. Strange Journey, it is my most favorite Shin Megami Tensei game ever, out of all of them. Better than SMT4, better than SMT4 Apocalypse, better than Devil Survivor, better than fucking... Okay, I'm not gonna count Persona, because Persona's a different thing. In terms of Persona, Persona 3 is my personal favorite. And then after that, Persona 4, and then Persona 5. But yeah, in terms of Shin Megami Tensei specifically, and again, I don't know anything about SMT5, which is coming out pretty soon. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, as of 2018, Strange Journey Redux, my favorite Shin Megami Tensei ever. Period. It is the perfect game for a guy like me. And again, all of the changes, all of the improvements, all of the iteration, everything that they did to this brand new remake was done with so much love and attention, which I think is fucking bullshit when they do a fucking Nintendo Direct and they show like the logo in like 2 seconds of this thing, of this fucking amazing, incredible fucking game that left me thinking so much. Again, I said it before, if I'm not playing this game, I'm thinking about playing this game, and I'm still fucking playing it now, because there's different endings, and I want to get through them. And, you know, New Game Plus, bring my demons back, and, you know, like, just... It's amazing. This game left me speechless. Like, it is an incredibly good game. If you are an RPG fan of any kind, especially if you're a big fan of the old school shit, awesome. Number 1, 2018 game of the year, for me, personally. Highest level of enjoyment, highest level of fun, highest level of thought-provoke, thought-provoking story, highest level of, like, you know, puzzle solving, you know, a really decent challenge as well. Great twist at the end, you know, and again, going through the neutral ending and having to fight the people that you fight is like, it's just amazing. It's a great game. It's a great game. Number one. That's all I have to say. And there you go. Over the span of 1 hour, I have given you guys my official GGHF Game of the Year for 2018. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this list. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed me babbling on and on and on vaguely about all of these games, because if I talked in detail, we'd be here all day, and on top of that, I'd be spoiling stuff for you guys. Just take my word for it, and I highly recommend these games. You guys, if any of you are in any way interested in any of these games, feel free to look them up yourselves. I definitely streamed myself play a lot of these, and I have videos of myself talking about a lot of these, so you can even go to my own channel and find, you know, some stuff. Or, you know, go on Google, find other gameplay videos, and, you know, support all these games, man, because all of these are fucking fantastic. And some of these are free. Some of these are hentai games. Some of these are virtual reality games like Tetris Effect. I love the wide breadth of all of these games. All of these are totally different in their own way. And, yeah, you know, this is like a meme at this point, but there's no better time to be a gamer, you know, honestly. I know it sounds like a meme, but, you know, gaming is better than it has ever been before. It is definitely the year where I had the hardest time, the most difficult time in trying to decide what game I wanted to be my number one. I was juggling between Shin Megami Tensei, Dragon Quest XI, Smash, and Ys 8, you know, and Deltarune, you know, like those 5. You know, I said, like, can I just have all 5 of these be number one? Because I really had a tough time, you know. When I think about the list, it's like, nah, Ys 8 should be higher, but Deltarune should be higher. But if I put one game higher, that means that the other one goes lower, so it's like, you know. So you know what? All 10 of these are awesome. Go buy all of these. Go play all of these. If they're in a sale, go get them. Deltarune is free, so just download Deltarune on your fucking computer. So, yeah. If you guys enjoyed this list, or if you guys want to show me your own list of the games that you guys loved in 2018, right now in the celebration of the new year, we are out with the old. You know, I'm putting this video out on the 31st, just to, like, formally end the year. Just reflecting on all of the past games that I played and what I loved about all of them. So, whatever you guys have to say, be sure to give this video a like. And of course, you can subscribe, you can hit that bell icon, and you can comment whatever you want, whether it be your personal list, or, you know, whatever other games you guys loved in 2018, or what you're looking forward to for next year in 2019. There's a lot of awesome games coming out in 2019, including Kingdom Hearts 3, Burst Renewal, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And of course, all social media links are down in the description down below for whatever you want to follow. And so, this is not the end. After this Game of the Year video, we're kicking off the new year strong with my most favorite game of all time, The World Ends With You. We're doing a calendar run of that. So, starting 2019, I'm going to start posting videos on that. And, I'll just continue, you know, working on this channel. As long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making. So, yeah, thank you, everybody, for a great 2018. This is a very important year in my life. I finally graduated off of university. I am a fully fledged adult in the real world. And, if anybody's out there, hey man, shoot me an email, hire me. If you need somebody to review your video games, I'm your man. But anyway, happy 2018 to all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you. Hopefully, all of you guys are spending time with your families. Hopefully, all of you are doing very, very well. Thank you very much to everybody for a great 2018. Thank you very much for all of your support. Thank you for your viewership. Thank you for showing up to all of my streams. Thank you to, you know, my family and everybody for all of your support. It's really been emotional for me with, you know, me graduating and all this stuff. This has definitely been a highlight of my life, so, and you guys are a part of it too, you know, no matter what, because the YouTube channel is, you know, such a massive part of my life as well, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, seriously. So, with that said, just because this is the ending of a year, don't be sad, because that only means it's the beginning of a brand new one, so we can all start anew. We can all, you know, think about what we want to do, think of our goals, and let's go ahead and reach them. Let's reach them together, and yeah, it's all good. Thank you. Bye. See ya in 2019.